You bite into something raw, something tough, something cold, something your jaw works and works but barely breaks down. Your body absorbs maybe a fraction of what it could. Your gut strains. Your afternoon disappears into digestion. For most animals on this planet, that is every single meal. For roughly 2 million years, it was yours too. Then something changed. Not because of a plan, not because of a vision of the future. It changed because of a spark, a moment of observation, and a body that evolved around a new habit so completely that today you physically cannot survive without it. This is a story of how your ancestors discovered cooking, and it is one of the most consequential accidents in the history of life on Earth. Start with what your body tells you. Your gut is surprisingly small for a primate your size. Chimpanzees, your closest living relatives, have intestines roughly 40% larger than yours relative to body weight. A gorilla's digestive system is a massive, barrel-shaped machine built to extract nutrition from raw, fibrous plants over hours and hours. Yours is compact, shortened, almost streamlined. That is not an accident. Biologist Richard Wrangham at Harvard has spent decades arguing that cooking did not simply make life easier for ancient humans. It fundamentally reshaped human anatomy. In his 2009 book, Catching Fire: How Cooking Made Us Human, Wrangham laid out what he called the cooking hypothesis. The shift to cooked food drove some of the most dramatic changes in the human body, including the reduction of the gut, the shrinking of the jaw, the growth of the brain, and the increase in overall body size. In other words, your brain is large in part because your gut got smaller, and your gut got smaller because of fire. Here is how the logic works. Raw food, especially raw meat and raw tubers, takes enormous energy to digest. Your body has to work hard just to extract calories. Cooking breaks down cell walls and protein structures before the food ever enters your mouth. It pre-digests. It unlocks calories that would otherwise pass through you. A cooked sweet potato delivers roughly 30% more usable energy than the same sweet potato eaten raw. Cooked meat is absorbed dramatically more efficiently than raw. So when your ancestors began regularly cooking their food, their bodies could extract more energy with less gut. Resources that had been spent maintaining a large, expensive digestive tract were suddenly freed up, and some of those resources, generation after generation, were redirected to the brain. The human brain is metabolically extravagant. It consumes roughly 20% of your total energy, while accounting for only about 2% of your body weight. No other primate pays that kind of metabolic tax. And for millions of years, the central question in human evolution was, how do you power a brain that expensive? The answer, at least in part, was fire. But when exactly did this begin? The archaeological record is imperfect, as it always is. Fire does not fossilize cleanly, but the evidence is growing. At Wonderwork Cave in South Africa's Northern Cape, researchers found burned bone fragments and plant ash dating to approximately 1 million years ago. The 2012 study, led by Francesco Berna and his team, was careful to distinguish between fire occurring in the open, which can happen naturally from lightning, and fire used consistently inside a sheltered space. Wonderwork is a cave. That means intentional, controlled fire, not a wildfire passing through, a fire maintained by hands. A site called Gesher Banat Yaakov in northern Israel pushes possible fire control back to around 790,000 years ago, with evidence of burned flint and seeds clustered near what appear to be hearth areas. These are not random burn marks. They are patterns, concentrations, evidence of return and repetition. These dates point toward Homo erectus, meaning upright human, your direct ancestor who walked on two legs, ranged across Africa and into Asia, and had a brain substantially larger than anything that came before. Wrangham and others argue that Homo erectus's anatomy, with its smaller teeth, smaller gut, larger brain, and longer legs, only makes sense if cooking was already part of daily life. A Homo erectus living entirely on raw food would have needed to spend something close to 9 hours a day chewing, the way modern raw food primates do. That leaves almost no time for anything else. So let's reconstruct the moment, or something close to it. Imagine you are Homo erectus, somewhere on an open African savanna, perhaps 1.5 million years ago. A grass fire has swept through. It happens often here. Lightning strikes dry season grass, fire rolls fast, and then it dies. Your group watches from a rocky rise. When the flames pass and the ground cools, you move in. This is not unusual. Animals scavenge burned areas because the fire has done something useful. It has killed and partially cooked the creatures that could not escape. You find a small animal near the edge of the char, its body blackened, still warm. You bring it to your mouth. It is different. Not just the temperature, the texture, the ease, the way it comes apart, the way the fat runs and the flesh pulls from the bone without an hour of jaw-breaking effort. The calories hit differently. You do not understand metabolism. You do not know what a calorie is, but your body knows. Something here is easier, richer, better. And somewhere in the circuitry of your ancient brain, a preference is recorded. This scene, the opportunistic scavenging of naturally cooked animals from a wildfire zone, is what many researchers believe was the first step. Not the deliberate invention of fire, the recognition that cooked food was superior. The second step, much harder to pin down in the fossil record, was learning to carry and maintain fire, to protect the flame, to keep it alive through the night. The third step, even harder to date, was learning to create it from nothing. Here is the part most people miss. Cooking did not give your ancestors freedom. At first, it created a new kind of dependency. Before controlled fire, your ancestors ate when food was available. They moved, they foraged, their digestion handled a wide and variable raw diet. But once the caloric upgrade of cooking became central to daily survival, fire became a vulnerability. You needed fuel, you needed a hearth, you needed someone to tend it. If your fire went out and you did not yet know how to restart it, your entire caloric strategy was at risk. Anthropologist Claude Lévi-Strauss, in his landmark work 1964, The Raw and the Cooked, framed cooking as the defining line between nature and culture, the act that set humans apart from all other animals. He was not just being poetic. He was describing a real threshold. The moment fire became necessary, your ancestors were no longer purely biological creatures responding to their environment. They were cultural ones, bound by shared responsibilities and shared knowledge that had to be transmitted, maintained, and protected. Hearth sites in the archaeological record are almost never solitary. They are group sites. Fire was a social technology before it was a culinary one. It created meeting points. It extended the usable day past sunset. It drew individuals into proximity, and proximity, over thousands of generations, created language, storytelling, teaching, and planning in ways that solitary foraging in the dark simply could not. Your brain did not grow only because of the calories in cooked food. It grew because cooking created the conditions for everything else a large brain requires: community, instruction, memory passed from one mind to another across a fire. Now look at today. You probably eat at least 2 or 3 cooked meals every day without thinking about it. Your jaw is roughly 30% smaller than Homo erectus's was. Your gut is calibrated for cooked food. Research by Catherine Zink and Daniel Lieberman, published in the journal Nature in 2016, showed that cooking and food processing so dramatically reduced the demands on the human jaw that our faces literally shortened and our teeth shrank across evolutionary time. The skull you carry is a record of every fire your lineage ever lit. If you tried to live on a truly raw diet for months, not blended or processed, but whole raw plants and raw meat, your body would struggle to extract enough calories to maintain basic function, particularly the function of your brain. You are not built for the raw world anymore. Every time you heat food before eating it, you are doing something your lineage has been doing for at least 1,000,000 years. The specific tool has changed. The fire is now electric, or gas, or induction. But the act is the same. Break down the structure before it enters the mouth. Unlock the calories. Feed the brain. The kitchen is not a modern invention. It is one of the oldest rooms in human history. You bite into something cooked. Something soft, something warm, something your jaw barely has to work to break down. Your body absorbs almost everything it has to offer. Your gut hums quietly. Your brain, that calorie-hungry organ that defines everything you are and everything you have ever done, gets exactly what it needs. For at least 1,000,000 years, your ancestors kept the fire alive to make this possible. You are the result.